Sports. I'm your host, as always, live 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be talking about the NFL schedule as it comes up with the updates, ESPN, NFL.com, all of the sources. My guy, David Trogue, Coach Trogue, Coach David. Coach, how are you today? Joining me.
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. You revved up. You ready to go? I think the last time you had the feathery bangs going, so now you got your Stone Cold Steve Austin. I feel like I need to grab a couple beers and start getting to it. So you ready to go?
Yeah, I don't look homeless this time, so that's good.
It's true. You got the clean cut look going. You're ready to go. Now, you were telling me right before we were coming on the air, one of your favorite resources is NFL Update, My Sports Update. We're going to try to get them on the podcast the next couple of weeks. So as things are breaking, we are going to cover it. Obviously, the thumbnail for this video is my Tampa Bay Buccaneers opening up on Thursday night against the Dallas Cowboys. And I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, Dallas was terrible last year, and they were, and their defense was terrible last year, and it was. However, I do expect Dallas to win their division, the NFC East. I do expect them to be more competitive. And if Dak Prescott, I can't even say his name, I'm so excited. If Prescott is healthy with all of their weapons, they're going to be a tough team to beat. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And, so I look a lot off the betting lines, and I know that one kind of jumped out to me because Tampa actually opened up as 6.5-point favorites. So, I mean, Vegas.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And, usually for betting purposes, it's usually like one of the best games to bet the dog every year because you have the home team, they're bringing in the championship. It's kind of like a championship hangover and the points are high there. But I don't know. I think the Cowboys, like you were saying, it all revolves around the health of Dak Prescott.
It's all about Dak. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the defense should be somewhat improved, but the defense is still, I don't know. Jerry can't.
You're right.
The defense for almost 30 years.
The defense was the Achilles heel last year. Besides, obviously, Dak. Look, we're assuming we're having a normal conversation. If Dak goes down, this team is again in the ditch once again. But we're assuming Dak comes back, plays at a 90, 95% plus level, relatively healthy level. So all things considering, if he's healthy, this team can win 9, 10, potentially 11 games if things break right, in my opinion. Be conservative and say 9 or 10 wins, more if things break right. But you look at their offense was breaking all kinds of records in the beginning. I mean, Dak Prescott was on pace for a 6,000-yard passing season, which has never been done. So with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, all the receivers with Zeke, if they got a couple offensive linemen, their line should be substantially better. And they added some great players on defense with Micah Parsons and a lot of the other linebackers they added. This team they're not going to be great on defense. But again, they don't have to be great. If this team can, instead of being bottom 3, if they are somewhere in the, we'll call it 19, 20, 21 range, just to be conservative, if they're in that range with the top 5 or 6 offense, this team can be competitive.
Yeah, I agree. And hey, going into every season, I don't know this. I've never worked on an NFL coaching staff, played in the locker room, but I think the first goal for all those guys every year outside of winning the Super Bowl would be winning your division, because if you can't get through your division, obviously there's a wild card, but if you can't win your division, the odds of you getting to the Super Bowl are a lot less. And like you said, if you look at the Cowboys, they have the best quarterback in the division, right? They have the best offense in the division, and it's an offensive league. So, hey, let's be honest. To win a division, you're typically going to have to win at least 9 games. Now, there are always those special cases where you have a really bad year for a division, 7 or 8, but usually the floor to win your division is 9 games. So, yeah, I mean it's a great matchup to open the season. You get the restock, the reloaded. They drafted the Buccaneers. I just thought the Buccaneers had a really good draft for the position that they were in picking. So I think that week 1 matchup's really going to be good. I would expect it to be high scoring too.
I would agree. I do think it's going to be high scoring. The one thing that I love about that is I do think Dallas is going to be a tough team. They're going to be very competitive. Everything's coming back on track. The rest of to me, Philadelphia is a dumpster fire. They're going to be in the running for the number 1 or number 2 overall pick. I mean, look, they're terrible. Look, I like Jalen Hurts personally. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's generally a good guy, but I think he's a terrible quarterback. So he's a good athletic. He can do a couple gadgets. It's not Alabama. It's not Clemson. This is the National Football League. So, yeah, he can win you 1 or 2 games where he runs for 80 or 90 and the rest of the team runs for 80 or 90. He can't pass. In my opinion, they did not do a good job of helping him out. I know they drafted the young receiver. We'll see how that goes with Devontae Smith. He's extremely skinny. I've heard from many reports he's as low as 166. Okay.
I was going to say, I thought I heard 165. So, I mean, yeah, we're right on the same.
I've seen dogs that are 166 pounds. I mean, I'm just saying it's great to be fast. It's great to win Heisman's and have all the fanciness, and that's all great. At the end of the day, you still got to make your hay. You still got to catch 8 or 9 catches a game, and you're going to be getting hits. It's not as hard as it used to be, but the 2 guys that he compares to that were great receivers, in my opinion, were Isaac Bruce and Marvin Harrison. And both of those guys were a solid 21 pounds heavier than he was and about an inch shorter, which means they were packing on about 22 to 24 pounds more of muscle, and those guys were slender. So the guy that he also compares to, which a lot of people don't like, but he does compare to identical, is D.D. Westbrook for Jacksonville from a few years ago. So if you tell me, if you're not in love with D.D. Westbrook, so that's who you're drafting. Everyone's like, oh, he's a Heisman. In my opinion, you're drafting D.D. Westbrook. Is he better than D.D. Westbrook? Yes. But that is, to me, what's realistic. So I don't think he's going to be Isaac Bruce or Marvin Harrison. What are your thoughts on that while the calls are trickling in here?
Well, I definitely agree with you on Jalen Hurts, too. He seems like a really good kid. He's a competitor. And, he has those leadership qualities that you look for. But I just don't – I mean, hey, there's a reason why he left. There's a reason why he left Bama and went to Oklahoma, right? I mean, the Big 12's borderline 7-on-7 flag football. And so, it's funny the way the Eagles drafted kind of reminds me how the Broncos have drafted recently. They keep drafting all these receivers. And, well, I was going to say the Ravens. We'll talk about Lamar Jackson another time. But
I know you're not a fan of Lamar Jackson, but
he's the best running back in football.
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to. I knew 2 minutes in. I knew 2 minutes in you were going to get the show derailed, deplatformed. But let me say this about Jalen Hurts. Look, he was not good enough to stay the starter at Alabama. And Tua, many people are concerned about Tua, as am I. A lot of writers have had on the last couple of weeks for The Wire. They're like, oh, give Tua a chance, give him a chance. Okay, well, we're giving him a chance. But you know what? I would cut my losses with him. You whiffed not getting Justin Herbert. That's a whiff getting Tua. You can say whatever you want to. It's a whiff. I'm not a fan of drafting guys 5th overall with 80-year-old man injuries. Okay,
yeah, I've got nothing against old men.
I don't want an 85-year-old man with a hip injury as a starting quarterback. That's supposed to be young, and so he's slow. I'm talking about Tua. He's slow. He's small. He's not athletic. He's not big and sturdy. He does. There's nothing elite about him.
No, I 100% agree.
So when I see people popping champagne bottles about Tua like he can come around, I'm like, no, to me, Miami's a solid team. And I think their biggest weakness is arguably quarterback because they've got other weapons at other spots, offense and defense, that they just need to do so much more. What are your thoughts on that? Well, by the way, before you give me take the coming through, the schedules are pouring in. There's so much data coming in. We're going to get them from NFL.com, ESPN, updates. We're going to get it poured in. But what is your synopsis on that? What I was saying there.
No, I agree on Tua. If we've talked about this before, it's just the NFL it's physical. You're going to get hurt, and the odds of injury it goes up. It's just that's how the NFL is. It's physical. They're fast. They hit hard. And now, obviously, the rules have been skewed to protect quarterbacks.
Have been skewed,
but still, I mean, it's the lower body injuries. He's had the ankle problems on both ankles, the hip injury, and outside of he's accurate. That I would say that is his one elite skill. It would be accuracy.
Comments are coming up. Appreciate it, Drew. Comments are coming in. Everybody's liking and subscribing to the channel. We had to get that in there, but you're right. And look, I'm not going to get into
there aren't any excuses now.
I'm not going to get into the fact that Tua also suffers from lack of sacinitis, which is the official medical term. You brought it up, the hip, the ankle. I'm just simply saying, look at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is big and strong and sturdy and checks every box. His knee looks like a horror movie. His knee.
It went the other way.
It looks horrific. And my concern with Burrow was not his skill set. My concern with Burrow was the Cincinnati Bengals going to ruin him. Yeah. Now, can he come back and have a great career? Yes, but the same thing that happened to Carson Palmer, was young, got injured, is the same exact thing that's happening to Burrow. So I'm just concerned that they're not going to take care of him, and it's getting rough. It's just
the thing though rough. Between Burrow and Tua is Burrow is a lot more athletic than Tua. And, the knee injury, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, a lot of guys come back from that now. It is a concern just because it's the Bengals and they can't protect him.
If it was another team, I would not be as concerned. But the Bengals are just a dumpster fire. And there's a lot of people. Now, I want to get your take on this. Let's shift gears here. They drafted Jamar Chase, 5th overall, who is dynamic. Many people feel he was the best receiver. I thought he was substantially better than Devontae Smith from a skill set.
I agree with that.
Every mark running the route tree, from everything you could have, he's a better skill set. But many people felt they should have gone offensive line, either Penei Sewell or Slater. A, do you feel that way? And B, do you like to pick with Chase over one of the big offensive linemen?
Well, I wanted Kyle Pitts to fall. I wanted him to fall to 5 so bad because Kyle Pitts he's so good. But obviously that didn't happen. And I think at that point, I probably would have taken Sewell just because I'm more of like an old school football guy from coaching. And the game of football is still won and lost at the line of scrimmage. And the name of the game is protecting your quarterback and getting to the quarterback. And I'm just not a big fan of paying receivers either. I mean, if you're keeping Jamar Chase around long term, he's eventually getting paid. I mean, that's just how it's going to work. And I think receivers are actually the most dependent position on the field. And what I mean by that is it's dependent on
a lot of factors.
Other positions doing their job in order for the receiver to do his job. So
you need a great offensive line. You need a great quarterback, great scheme. I mean, there's and not only that, I don't care what your name is. If the other team puts their 2 best corners on you, they can slow you down or contain you or damn near shut you out. So, the big problem now. Here's
what the Bucs did to Tyreek Hill.
Look at what we did to Tyreek Hill. Many people feel Tyreek Hill. I don't know that I would call him the best receiver in the league, but Tyreek Hill is definitely the most dangerous. The fastest, the most explosive. He's the most game-changing receiver. A lot of people still want to say Hopkins or Julio Jones, but I do feel that Tyreek Hill, because of his explosive play, he can take a 3-yard swing pass, take it 80 yards to the house.
Yeah.
I do think that he is definitely dynamic, and the fact that he had almost 300 yards the first time, and that was a turning point for the Bucs, because at that point when we lost to the Chiefs, I was sick to my stomach. I was just like, man, we just got torched, and we turned it around.
Yeah, and hey, the Chiefs' offensive line, now going to the Super Bowl, they had the injuries, but the Chiefs' offensive line was pretty good for the last couple of years. And a lot of people forget about that too. Like Mahomes has had a lot of things break right for him. And I'm not saying Mahomes isn't good. We're not going to get in that conversation right now. But he's been put in a good situation, to maximize his abilities.
Yeah. He was born into, the Gates family. He was born into the Bezos family. The great offensive line, the great offensive coach, the great receivers, great tight ends, he was great defense, good enough. And I hate to say this, I was the biggest fan of Patrick Mahomes since the beginning. And even though my team won, and I was glad they won, I have to be honest, my opinion of Patrick Mahomes did fall after that game. And it's not a panic because of one game. He's still an elite quarterback. I'm simply saying the tackles were gone, dilapidated. The Bucs were pinning their ears back, absolutely smacking them around. And I was not impressed with Patrick Mahomes. All I heard about the year before, how magical Mahomes is, the 10-point quarterback comeback in every game. This is the first game he's really faced true adversity with a banged-up offensive line, with Tyreek Hill getting shut down, and he got steamrolled. Now, he looked horrific, and that was the worst game of his career. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so my problem isn't necessarily with Mahomes himself. I think it's more of...
Okay, if you don't like Mahomes, it's okay. I know you want to say it. You're not a fan of his.
I'm not a fan, but he's skilled. He's a very good quarterback. My issue is that we live in this world now where everything's recency bias. And because Mahomes has won a Super Bowl and played in one of his first 3 years, the guy's the greatest of all time behind Brady.
Let me ask you, I don't want to jump in, but let me just ask you this. Deshaun Watson, we're not going to go down the road with his problems. I'm just talking about his talent.
Right.
If he would have been drafted to Kansas City, in my opinion, he'd have the very similar success as Patrick Mahomes. He would be almost identical to Patrick Mahomes in that system. He'd be very good. Maybe he wouldn't have 50 touchdowns. Maybe he'd have 47. Maybe he wouldn't have 5,000 yards. Maybe he'd have 40. But he would be extremely close because to me, Deshaun Watson, Mahomes, their skill set is very similar. More similar than people want to give them credit for.
Andy Reid's
a genius.
Donovan McNabb to the Super Bowl. Donovan McNabb was a good quarterback, but he wasn't even a top 3 quarterback in when he was playing.
Era. Right.
And Alex Smith had a couple really good years under Alex Smith. Okay. So now obviously Alex Smith didn't win them a Super Bowl, but Mahomes is more skilled than Alex Smith, and Alex Smith was still able to throw for like 4,500 yards and all these touchdowns and stuff. So it's
rare. It's rare for a team as good as the Chiefs, the core of their team, a 10-11 win team, to be able to draft a guy as good as Mahomes. It's rare that a guy as good as Mahomes comes into a team
put in that situation.
It's very, very rare that happens a ready-made team.
So, and that actually brings me back to my Kyle Pitts point, because if I was building an offense, like we were saying, line of scrimmage, inside out, I would rather have an elite tight end like a Kyle Pitts or a Rob Gronkowski in his prime.
LC, whoever the guy is, right?
Right. Pick your tight end.
Or get all the guys, yeah.
I would rather have that guy than Jamar Chase, than Julio Jones, than Odell Beckham. Give me the tight end. If you attach him, you add a gap for the run game. You're gonna pull safeties down. You're gonna have to pull safeties off of bracket coverage. He's going to open up the middle of the field, which is going to open up the outside the hashes for your receivers. It just does a lot of different things. And so that's why, when the Bengals when they didn't get a chance to take Pitts, I thought Sewell was the pick, or at least should have been.
Now, here is the question, and we'll get to the schedule. Those that are, I know, I get some tweets now. Let's get to the schedule. Settle down, folks. Settle down. We're going to get to the schedule. I see it all, okay? Fair and just ruler here. But if you're the Bengals, now I said this in all the mock drafts we did. I said Kyle Pitts is going to Atlanta. Oh, Kyle Pitts is not going to go to Atlanta. They're going to draft Justin Fields. No, they're not going to draft Justin Fields. They're going to draft Kyle Pitts, because it doesn't matter if you like Matt Ryan or hate Matt Ryan. He's due over $111 million over these next 2 years. So he's your date. You married him. You're married for 2 years. You're married to Matt Ryan. You could say, well, what about this other, hot girl over here? It doesn't matter. You're married to Matt Ryan for 2 years. With that kind of money, you're married. Just like Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't matter if the Green Bay Packers hate Aaron Rodgers. With the near $40 million he's due this year,
he's not going.
There's no way, realistically, they would fire the GM and the owner before they ship him, or the coach. You know what I'm saying? Or the coach.
Yeah.
The coach,
I know. Yeah.
Because the team, they would move the franchise before they get rid of that, because that's a $40 million dead cap. So here's the question I'm saying. The question is, if he falls to Cincinnati, here are your 3 choices: Kyle Pitts, Penei Sewell, offensive lineman, or the dynamic receiver Chase. In order, who are you taking?
The order you just said.
Wow. So Pitts number 1, offensive lineman 2, and then Chase number 3.
Yeah.
I would agree, because I agree. Well, I think we're similar in our philosophy. I've seen too many drafts, and you're on there the front line with these young guys coming up the pike in high school and some college guys. You build the team from the O-line and the D-line, because here's what I've learned from the draft, from all these years watching it to an obsessive level, and you're 100% right. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that Cincinnati, in some weird, bizarro draft, gets Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, and Waddle. They get 1, 2, and 3, 5, 6, 7. They get the top 3 receivers. If they don't have an offensive line, you could say, well, they got all these fantastic guys that can run all day. Yeah, they got guys that can run for days. But if you cannot protect the line of scrimmage and move the pile, you're not going to get the quarterback's got to get comfortable, and you got to run the ball to set the tone and to slow down the onslaught.
And that's why even like a guy like Pitts, Now, I don't think Pitts is probably, he's not going to be able to block he's not an elite blocker, but obviously that's not why you're taking him.
Right.
But,
he's not a George Kittle or Gronk, a big, heavy 275-pounder that can just road great. What makes Gronk great is he can do all the skills and he can block.
Gronk is the best, most well-rounded tight end ever playing in the NFL.
I agree. By far.
But even with a guy like Pitts, I mean, you can still line him up in a 3-point on the line of scrimmage. He can chip. He adds an extra gap for your run game. You can bring him back in some type of H position where you can motion him. You can chip. He can get to the flat. He can run arrow routes. You can do a lot of different things with him at the line of scrimmage again. Where when you take those receivers like Chase, man, those guys are divas. We all know how the receivers are.
They're divas.
They're sexy. They're out there dancing, doing their thing. And hey, I get that. You know what you're getting into when you get those guys. But like we said, receiver is the most dependent position on the field. And
absolutely.
I don't like investing that kind of capital when there's a lot of other areas of weakness on a team.
Absolutely. You bring up a good point. And you look at all these teams, like all these teams, okay, we had 5 quarterbacks, which we knew was going to happen, 5 quarterbacks in the top 15. Here is my prediction. Okay, can I say with 100% certainty that this guy's going to suck, this guy's going to suck? No. But I think we can all agree Trevor Lawrence is by far the clear-cut favorite of these guys.
Oh, I 100%.
Trey Lance, okay, Zach Wilson. I know people love his feathery bangs. I've heard more comments about Zach Wilson's hair than his talent. Okay, people are obsessed with his hair and he's a model and all these things. Who cares about what is that? My first question is, what does that have to do with football? Who cares about all these things? He played. Look, I love BYU. Okay, great, nice guys. Love the program. Respect the religious dedication. That's not an elite program as far as the program is solid, but I'm talking about the talent they're playing is not elite. They're not playing against Chase Young, against J.J. Watt. They're not playing those guys. So to have 1 year where he comes out of nowhere and to give the keys to the kingdom, I think is crazy. Trey Lance, you could argue, as great as an athlete as he is, he's even worse than Zach Wilson because he hasn't even played in a year. And his games were even worse than the BYU games. I'm like, what is going on with these quarterbacks? I get it. You like the raw intangibles. I feel like too many coaches and too many fans, because I had a guy from the Jets wire on. He was in love with Zach Wilson. I interviewed him a day before the Jets 100% said they were going to take Zach Wilson. There was early rumblings, but this was the day before, 3 or 4 weeks ago. He was in love with Zach Wilson. He's like, oh, Zach Wilson's going to make the Jets great again. They're going to go through. And I was like, okay. Oh, is he? I said, okay, well, let's look at 5 years ago.
They said the same thing about Sam Darnold.
They said the same thing about Sam Darnold.
They said the same thing about Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez and Sam Darnold were 2 top 6 picks that ironically both of those guys came out of USC, and they're not known for having great defenses in the West Coast.
Yeah.
But they at least played against real college athletes. BYU and your other boy, and I said Trey Lance compares to a watered-down version of Carson Wentz. Oh, well, I don't like that analogy. Well, they literally went to the same school, and they literally put up great stats at the same exact school in the same exact conference. So my question is, if you're not in love with Carson Wentz, why are you picking Trey Lance? If you're not in love with Sam Darnold, why are you taking Zach Wilson? Because you could say, well, can these guys be better? Yeah, of course they can be better, but that is as comparable as a guy as you can find. And then Justin Fields is great. My first question is, do you love Dwayne Haskins? If you don't love Dwayne Haskins,
did you see the list? Have you seen the list of Ohio State quarterbacks?
It's horrific. It's horrific. I did a show on a month and a half ago. It's beyond horrific. Okay, Cardale Jones is on that list, and he goes,
Joe Germain.
I don't even know why we go to. He goes, I don't
Troy
even
Smith.
know why we have to go to school. Because you have a scholarship to go to school. That's why. So Cardale Jones was horrific. Troy Smith was horrific. Brett Wenzel was horrific.
Ooh.
Dwayne Haskins. And these guys are mostly first and second round picks that are dumpster fires. Cardale Jones was struggling in the XFL. I mean, these guys have been horrific. And guess what? Ohio State with Urban Meyer, whoever the guy was back in the day, great program. You have a great offensive line, you load up the team, and you dominate Merriweather the Blind 35-0, and this guy looks like an all-world guy. So it's kind of like with the Jets. The Jets would what I would have done if I was the Jets, and I got pushed back on this. I said number one, I would have traded down because they could have gotten all the 3 first-round draft picks because San Fran was eager beaver to make a move. I would have traded down.
Darnold.
I would agree. I would have kept Sam Darnold for one more year. I would have their big Mekhi Becton on one side, and I drafted Panay Sewell on the other side, drafted another offensive line. I would have loaded up O-line, loaded up on running backs third and fourth round, got another tight end, protected this young man, try to get back to a solid 7, 8, 9 win program. If you do that, then you can worry about the shenanigans and trying to go for it again. But they keep every 3 years they keep swinging for home runs, and every year they keep striking out. At a certain point, somebody with a brain has got to step up to the table and say, guys, you can't just draft a quarterback and say, okay, this guy's our savior, and you have a dilapidated O-line, dilapidated receivers, everywhere's dilapidated.
Yeah, well, you're seeing that, the quarterback thing's kind of been there for a long time.
And I get it.
I say a long time. I'm talking like the last 10 to 12 years. I mean, if you go back in the early 2000s, you didn't always get all these quarterbacks to win in the first round. I mean, shoot, in the year 2000, only one quarterback went in the first round. That was Chad Pennington. So this is more of a product of –
yeah, that was a bad year of scouting because a guy named Tom Brady went in that draft, and that was that's another point. And I love Tom Brady, of course, but he was also in a fortunate situation as well. So now you could argue he was a driving force, but again, Chad Pennington was first on that list. What was Chad Pennington? A big, accurate quarterback from a weak conference, and he went in the first round. It's not a 1 year. We've seen it since the beginning of time. Mitchell Trubisky. Okay, 2 guys we talked about that today that are Pro Bowlers. Mahomes, Watson, Mitchell Trubisky. The Bears were in love with Mitchell Trubisky. And what has Mitchell Trubisky done?
Yeah, I think the quarterback deal obviously is, especially now with the way where you get those. Basically, it's like 5 years. You get that 5-year window to at least win a Super Bowl because the quarterback pay for the first 5 years of a quarterback's career isn't as high as it is if they succeed and then get those $35-40 million contracts.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I want to jump in here and say one thing before we get to the Bucs schedule here, because it just came through the wire.
Oh,
we're going to get to that. But here's what I want to get to, because everybody's telling me that Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback the world's ever seen. I said, okay. I said, well, he's won 1 Super Bowl. I said, let's talk again when he's won 3 or 4. Until he's won 3 or 4, I don't want to hear it, because you know what?
Eli Manning has 2. Does that make him a top 5 quarterback of all time?
Manning's got 2. Eli Manning's got 2. I know, Big Ben's got 2. All I know is this. Yeah. Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl very early, went to another. He hasn't been back since. He's great. He's talented.
There aren't any guarantees.
There's no guarantees. And I'm simply saying, with Mahomes' money, with that $40 million plus price tag, they've already shown that they can't load up the offensive line like they need to. They can't
his injuries.
And I said this too. You're right. The last 2 years he's been injured, and he's a young guy. To go through that many injuries this young is a concern. Plus his style. He doesn't have a Tom Brady
based off mobility. It's very
all off mobility. It's all off scrambling.
It's very Franz Harkington-esque. Where you kind of improvise. It's actually Fran Tarkenton, Russell Wilson. It's that whole deal where you run around, you make a play. You make a play. So
I'll tell you what guy from the '80s he reminds me of is Randall Cunningham. People forgot about Randall Cunningham.
I can see that. Oh yeah.
Randall Cunningham was elite, and I remember, and this is back when they played physical in the '80s and '90s.
Yeah,
they would start out the Vikings, Eagles, whatever team he was at. Every year they'd start off 4-0, 5-1. He would get injured. The team would get derailed every year. Every year he starts off MVP caliber.
Yeah, I can see that comparison.
Running around, boom, gets crashed. And he had a lot of up and down, a lot of up and down. Now, the game is a lot more, favored towards the quarterbacks now, so you don't see quite the peaks and valleys like that you used to. It's more catered to them. But again, this is the first 17-game season we've ever had. My question is this. If Patrick Mahomes gets injured again and they have to go to Chad Henne or Stumpy Raines or Left Nut You, whoever the guy is, that's going to be 3 years in a row. You're going to have to start saying, man, are we concerned about this $500 million deal that we did?
Yeah, and that's exactly right there. Where one reason why you see these teams so eager to draft these quarterbacks. That's one reason. Another reason is they're all looking to hit on that next Pat Mahomes from I don't want to say Texas Tech is small, but not a traditional.
They're not a traditional powerhouse.
Not a traditional quarterback.
Texas Tech is good.
Right. They don't breed successful NFL quarterbacks. Josh Allen, Wyoming. His stats didn't look good, but
his stats were horrific. My concern with Josh Allen, he was big and strong. He was up, but I looked at his stats. I was like, boy, he's not accurate. Horrible division.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen's that one unicorn, the guy that his stats were horrific. He played at a horrific college in a horrific division, but it just turns out he played with all Foot Locker guys that are going to be working at the mall next week, and he was the one guy.
And this is the other thing, though, with a guy like Josh Allen, and it's also why it's really difficult for these people. They're in the NFL. They get paid millions of dollars to evaluate these quarterbacks, and they fail all the time at evaluating them. It's those intangibles. Josh Allen spent the whole last offseason going through. I think it was with Jordan Palmer and Jordan Palmer's school, where they actually do use these laser measurements and stuff between your feet position, your hips, and your elbow and your arm, to maximize your mechanics. And he committed an entire offseason to figuring out why his accuracy wasn't as good as it could be. So not every guy does that. And, for whatever reason it is, they get money, so they get complacent, maybe arrogance, injuries. You don't know. There are all these multiple reasons it could be for a guy who doesn't commit to figuring out why a specific part of his game isn't as good as he wants it to be. And not everybody's Josh Allen in that aspect, and not everybody has the skill set to mirror the commitment to
and let me say
himself.
Let me jump in here and let me say this, because the pushback I'm getting from the guys that love Tua, the guys that want to swing on the swing set with Tua, and they want to go on the merry-go-round with Tua, and they want to hold hands with Tua and skip and Lily. So they go, oh, well, look at Josh Allen. Look at Josh Allen. He was terrible his first year. Second year was okay. His third year, he was an MVP candidate. And so I said, okay. I said, well, here's my first question. Is Tua 6'5", 240 pounds, and can throw a ball 80 yards on a rope? No, he's not. No. Is he small and dumpy with old man hips and weak ankles? Yes. So I don't care about Wyoming or Alabama. That doesn't mean anything.
Josh Allen's one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL.
He is big and strong and 6'5", 240. Great athlete. We've never seen a guy like a Josh Allen that big, and that's a lot of the smaller guys. A lot of the guys like a Michael Vick, a Pat Mahomes, a Deshaun Watson. These guys are even a Kyler. These guys are great athletes, but they're very small guys. They're 5'11", 6'6'1". He is unique in the fact that he's as big as a Big Ben or Cam Newton with the athleticism of a Russell Wilson or some of these other athletic guys. That's what makes him unique. That's what the scouts missed. And I'll tell you what else the scouts missed. They missed the Buccaneers schedule, which is live. Here we go. We're going to go through the schedule. Week 1. At home, Thursday night, 8:20, September 9th on NBC. They play the Dallas Cowboys. I'm taking that as a win for Tampa Bay. Next week, they're playing the Atlanta Falcons on Fox. I take it as another win for Tampa Bay. Week 3, at the Los Angeles Rams. That's going to be a tough game. I'm taking the Rams as well. Now, the Bucs. I'm sorry. Now, week 4. I'm also taking the Bucs. They're playing at the Patriots. Sunday looks like is it 10-3? Is that a Sunday night game? I think it's a Sunday night game, 8:20. What are your thoughts on those games or that game in particular so far?
Yeah, I think obviously, those games against the Falcons and the Saints and the Panthers inside that division, it always seems like there's one or two games a year that the top team in that division, they lose just because that
it is a tough division. You could throw it
inside that division
record. The division games are always tough. You're right about that.
And so, for like that Falcons game, a lot's going to depend on health of, like guys, like Julio Jones, how Kyle Pitts is fitting into the offense and all that. That Rams game should be really good. I mean, because that could be an NFC. It could be an NFC Championship preview with Matthew Stafford there now. Cam Akers is. I'm big on Cam Akers this year. I think Cam Akers is a freaking stud, dude. So yeah, to me, that Bucks Rams game is going to be great television.
Now, what about the Patriots? So the twofold. What do you make? What do you make of the Patriots off season, loading up the tight end, the $200 million? In my opinion, they went to the hills. They signed everybody, tons of premier top free agents. So number one, I do believe the Patriots will be back with all the guys they signed, with Dante Hightower, other guys returning. I do think this team is going to be in the mix, 10 or 11 plus wins. I think they're going to be strong, and unfortunately, I think they're going to be back.
You made a good point. A lot of people forget about how many players they had set out last year, and with all those guys coming back. And once again, hey, Belichick doing exactly what we were talking about earlier. He committed to the tight end. He did not go out and spend all this money. He didn't spend all that money on receivers. He spent them on tight ends. And New England is traditionally over the last 20 years, whether you're going back all the way to Ben Coates or you're going to Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski, they've always committed to having strong tight ends in that offense. And I think at some point Cam will get benched because I've never been a Cam fan as a quarterback because he's good, but it's the inaccuracy and it's the peaks and valleys in his game that just would be so frustrating as a coach. And I think as soon as you saw them get those tight ends, I think that was a clear signal that they were going to take a quarterback and Mac Jones. So Mac, you have these people that love Mac Jones and you have people that hate Mac Jones. And there's really—
Can I just jump in right here and say, I am neither. I don't hate Mac Jones, nor do I love Mac Jones. I'm
interested. I'm interested to see how
you're fascinated. Look, my opinion on Mac Jones is this. All I know is this. I think he's extremely. Here's who I compare him to. I compare him to Matt Ryan. So if you hate, and not quite as clumsy as Matt Ryan is. Matt Ryan's like a big 6'6" oaf, kind of just walks around and kind of goofs sometimes. But
athletically awkward.
Awkward athletically. With the right coaching, you're right. I'm saying this Patriots team is so talented. They have the best two tight ends as far as free agency. They got 1 and 2, which shows you how much they value the tight ends. And I thought that was brilliant because I said that to Cam, our New England guy co-host. I said, you know what? I would sign both. And he's like, that's crazy. I said, yeah, I would. And they did it. I was like, wow, teams actually put it on the table and they actually did it. And that's a brilliant move because if Cam doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. They've got Mac Jones. You got a great offensive line. You got great tight ends. You got serviceable, solid receivers now. The rest of the guys are back. Their defense has improved. This team is going to be in the mix. And with the talent that they have, I think it's going to be good. So I think it's going to be a battle in week 4. I'm taking my team, Tampa Bay. Let's go through the next 4 games. Miami Dolphins at home. I like the Bucs to win that game. They play the Eagles. I'm not even going to ask you about that. They're going to steamroll the Eagles. The only question against the Eagles whether they're going to be within 40 or under 40. So that's the only question with the Eagles. The only question is it going to be 45-0 or 45-3? That's really this Eagles team is a dumpster fire. Total dumpster fire. The Bears is going to be a tough game, but I think that's a winnable game. And then I'll tell you what, I want you to weigh in at the Saints. The Saints fans are not going to like this, but I love the fact that Drew Brees is retired, even though I love Drew Brees. This Saints team are wounded animals. They are wounded deer. They are dilapidated. They had to gut their roster. Drew Brees retired. They're handing the keys to Taysom Hill. And I like Taysom Hill, but this team has got a lot of problems. What are your thoughts on the Saints?
I think the starter's probably going to end up being Jameis. I think that's
do. So you don't like Taysom Hill.
I don't know.
I must be the only person left on the Taysom Hill bandwagon because I've seen somebody. I thought people would rally around Taysom Hill, but man, I'm surprised so many people hate Taysom Hill.
I don't hate Taysom Hill. I just don't think
I just want to shank him in a dark alley. No,
I just don't think he can throw consistently enough over 7. I was going to say 16, but 17 games now to succeed in the NFL. Jameis, I don't like Jameis, but
either.
Hey,
30 for
if
30.
you're going to chuck the ball around and you don't really care, he's a good guy to have. But you have to go into it understanding he's going to turn the ball over. And I love how everybody last year, he threw the one throwback play through for 60 yards or whatever. Everybody's, oh, he's great. I'm like, it's a gimmick play. Come on.
He's Dante Culpepper 2.0. He's a great fantasy guy.
Yeah.
He'll throw you 30 touchdowns and he'll throw you 30. Like, yes,
Right.
Jameis just like Dante Culpepper. Yeah, they're great for fantasy. They're going to get you 30 points, but we live in reality. If you throw 3 or 4 picks in a real game, you're going to lose.
Yeah, and hey, if you just go down the schedule and you look at the quarterback matchup, I mean, of every team, how good can the Saints really be with Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston? How successful do you think they're more in the NFC? Just go down. Do you think they're better in the Bucs?
No.
Think they're better in the Rams? Think they're better in the Seahawks?
No.
Think they're better in the
Packers?
Assuming.
Now, I want to throw this in. I think we talked about this a couple months ago, but Cam, who loves Jordan Love, and we have gotten in the most heated arguments on air, off air, and it's good that most of those arguments we were not in the same room, because had we would have been in the same room, we would have gone to blows over it, because when they drafted Jordan Love, I was watching Pat McAfee's draft, and he literally just – Aaron Rodgers went off to go finish his brandy and have a late dinner. And then literally 2 minutes later, the Packers traded up for Jordan Love. I was like, are you serious? Are you serious? Look, whether you love Aaron Rodgers or not, he is elite. He is a back-to-back NFC Championship games, and they've not given this guy much. So here's what they've done, in my opinion. They've wasted last year's first and second round pick with Jordan Love, a guy that's done nothing for them. He did nothing for them, obviously, this year. And they've pissed off Aaron Rodgers, and they've totally soured that relationship. That Jordan Love pick, in my opinion, has derailed this whole organization. Totally derailed it the wrong way.
It has. It was a horrible pick.
It's a horrible pick.
He had 16. So we're going back to the small school quarterback then again. He had 16 touchdowns and 14 interceptions at Nevada.
He's Trey Lance. That's who Trey Lance would be. Yeah.
Hey, if he would have thrown 40 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, I'd say, okay, hey, whatever. Got people like him. Okay, he dominated. He didn't dominate. And I just saw a report a few days ago that apparently the Packers are saying that Jordan Love has a long ways to go.
Yes. The GM, by the way, before the season a year ago,
what?
Because we had so many bare knuckle arguments about it. They said Jordan Love was the 3rd string quarterback. I go, there you go. Jordan Love cannot play quarterback. Okay, listen, here's what I want to say. We're talking about BYU and this and this and the MAC this and this and this and North Dakota State, the Left Nut U and Meriwether, all these lower tier schools. Yes, a guy that's a great athlete can scramble around and dominate in college. We've seen that. That's been proven, whether it's Tebow, Vince Young, whatever the guy's name, they can dominate in college. The NFL, it's about your reads. It's about so much more being a leader.
Playing from within the pocket.
Playing from within the pocket. And it's also – the quarterback's also so hard because you got to get in early. You got to stay late. You got to get the respect of your teammates. If I've got a defensive lineman and he parties till 3 a.m, he goes to all the clubs, he's drinking Jack Daniels and eating burgers and fries till 3 a.m, and he's a D tackle and he gets me 10 sacks, I pat him on the helmet. I say, hey, great job. Even if he throws up during the game, I don't care. If he shows up late, is it ideal? No. If my quarterback's at a different standard, he's like the CEO, the coach. You want him to be in at 5 a.m. coaching the young guys.
He's first in, last out.
First in, last out every time.
And I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this psychology crap about, well, you should maximize your work. No, I'm sorry. When you're the quarterback,
right?
You are first in. You're last out. You're helping clean up. You are the man. There are only 32 men that get start for an NFL franchise at that position in the world. There's 32. You're one of 32. Your butt better be the first one in and the last one out every day. Period. End of story. Here's
what's interesting. James Harrison, linebacker, edge rusher, defense end, whatever you want to call him, all those things, great player. When his career was winding down, left Pittsburgh, went to New England when Tom Brady was there a little over a year ago. He hated Tom Brady. We're talking about James Harrison. He hated Tom Brady. It was in his blood to hate Tom Brady. He said Tom Brady was the first one there that shook his hand and said, "I'm Tom Brady." He said all the hate that he had went away because he said, "Of course I know who Tom Brady is." He says, "Tom Brady doesn't have to acknowledge me. I'm not at his level," but he did it anyway. That's what it takes to be a leader. It's all of those things. Tom Brady's teammates love Tom Brady because he does all the little things, including people, coaching people, working with people, all those things. He's a coach on the field. He goes above and beyond. That is the key. And the thing, to get back to the Packers situation, I'm going to say this right now. The Packers situation is toxic to a whole nother level because Aaron Rodgers does not want to play there. Yeah.
Did you see the report where they claimed that they wanted to draft Justin Jefferson last year?
You know what? I did not hear that report, and I don't believe that they did because that's a lie.
Well, I don't either. I'm sure they do after the fact. See, I love Jefferson because when I went back and watched that LSU team, that was the best. I'm sorry, but that was the best offense in college I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. And Justin Jefferson, so this is another guy. This goes back to the work and those intangible things. He was a two-star recruit. He was a two-star coming out of high school, which means that he had to bust his butt 100 times harder than a guy like Jamar Chase or any of these other first-round guys because he came in as an underdog. And when I heard that report, I'm thinking, yeah, okay. And then if you go back and you look, Jefferson was a 22nd overall pick. They could have moved up. They could have.
That's my point. My problem was you traded up a first and a second for a guy that's not going to help your team for 2 or 3 years. That's the problem. I said, look, guys, what you're missing is, and look, he's like, Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers.
They could have had T. Higgins or Michael Pittman, dude.
He was supposed to be the number one pick. Aaron Rodgers was. The equivalent would have been as if Trevor Lawrence would have fell to them, or Joe Burrow would have. Then you could have maybe made that argument, okay? But you've traded up collateral. If they'd have traded up a couple spots more and gotten Justin Jefferson, that would have been worth it. If they had added a Deebo Samuel or Curtis Samuel, some of those kind of guys, that would have been worth it. They didn't do any of that. It's like there's a lack of brain power in Green Bay. They think it's 1955 with a seal here and a seal here. Nobody wants to go to Green Bay. No free agent wants to go to Green Bay. Nobody. It's not a desirable city. It's not a great place to go. If you're from Green Bay, great. A bunch of cheese whiz and roll on the ground and drink beer. No offense. Nobody wants to go to Green Bay. It's not even a top 50 market at all.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go back and you look, I mean, I still remember even when the Eagles took Rager and the Niners took Deebo Samuel. See, I just enjoy watching Clemson. It's not even necessarily me being a Clemson fan. I just enjoy watching good offenses.
Good football.
Good offenses, good defenses. And Clemson, as long as Trevor Lawrence and Etienne and Higgins and all these guys have been here, it's fun to watch. Those guys are really good. They play at a very high level, and they do it consistently, and they do it consistently well. And I thought Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins might have been the two best receivers in that draft.
T. Higgins, that was another guy.
T. Higgins, that was another guy. He was the first pick in the second round, and I'm like, well, why the hell wouldn't the Packers take T. Higgins?
T. Higgins would have been a much better receiver.
Davante Adams? Oh my gosh!
Yeah. See, that's another thing too. It's about packaging your team. If you team a Justin Jefferson with a Davante Adams, that's the best offense in the league. That team is running through left and right.
Yeah, you're not stopping them. It doesn't matter.
And they also commit or other good tight ends. Second round they could have drafted. So let's knock this out. I'm going to plow through these teams here. At Washington, the Giants at home. We're talking about the Bucs, of course. Versus the Colts, versus the Falcons, and then down the stretch you got the Bills, the Saints, the Panthers, the Jets, and then they're finishing up with the Panthers. I got to be honest. The Bills are tough, the Patriots are tough, and the Rams are tough. Those are the three toughest games that jump out at me. There's a lot of people saying the Bucs could go 20-0. There's a lot of people saying it.
I am going to put a futures bet on the Bucs to repeat the Super Bowl champions.
I would agree.
Assuming, I don't see anybody beating them. I mean, the defense.
The Packers are going down,
but the defense is good. And
the Packers are going down. The Chiefs are going down.
Seahawks are down.
The Steelers are going down. The Seahawks are going down. I mean, they're all good teams. I'm just saying they're down from the last two years going down. The Ravens are also going down because, again, they didn't really get any top receivers to help out, your boy Lamar Jackson. They didn't get him another tight end, which is what he needs. The Ravens are a power running team and defense. They are not an explosive offense like people are trying to pretend that they have been last year. They're a gimmicky team.
The division should be a little tougher, though, too. The Bengals, assuming Joe Burrow comes back and is healthy, the Bengals aren't going to be an easy team to beat. Obviously, they're the Bengals. And the Browns, the Browns were the #1 rushing team in the league last year, and their defense is elite. So, really, I think when it comes down to for the Bucs, the NFC, I think it's going to be the Rams. Just the defense is still good. The receivers are good. Matt Stafford is. I don't think Matt Stafford is as good as people think, but he's obviously an upgrade over Jared Goff. I'll tell
you what, you want a comparison? You want even a better comparison than Matt Stafford. Mac Jones could be Matt Stafford.
Yeah, without the arm strength.
Without the arm strength, but I'm saying skill-wise, talent-wise, yes, Matt Stafford's got the arm strength. I'm just saying their skill set. They both were great in college. They both were at powerhouse programs in the SEC. I could sense you're not feeling the Mac Jones love, and I'm just saying, as great as great as Matt Stafford's been, he's won one playoff game.
Well, no, I agree with you. Well, and that's why I'm saying with a guy like Matt Stafford, they make a big deal about Stafford being this like all-time great pickup, and it's like, well, hey, Stafford's been good now. Obviously,
he's been beat to hell.
Lions, but let's not anoint this guy as being like the Rams just got Aaron Rodgers.
Right. He's better than Jared Goff, but he's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Mahomes. He's not – Stafford's still not a top 7 or 8 quarterback. So –
yeah, I think – so, but like, hey, Mac Jones, I'm kind of rooting for Mac Jones because it seems like to me there's more people that hate him. And I'm thinking, I don't know. The guy went to a good situation. He obviously doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but once again, that's why with these quarterbacks, it doesn't matter who you're talking about, except maybe Trevor Lawrence, because just the skill set, it might not really matter. But the situation has to be near perfect. Well, where else would Mac Jones want to go?
Right. He's in a perfect situation.
We're in New England.
Let's do this, Dave. Let's end it with this.
Tom Brady for years.
Let's end it with this. Everybody like and subscribe to the channel. We're growing the channel every week. Smash Mouth Sports. Let's end it with this. We're not going to go too deep in the Jaguars. You're adopted team that you love to follow. I'm not going to get into Tim Tebow and Trevor Lawrence because that'll derail the show. We'll go on till 4 a.m. Everything will be short-circuited with that whole situation. Twitter will be ablaze. The position I want to get into is, and this is what's funny, is I brought this up to Travis Etienne and, some of the other running backs. I said, what if the Jaguars take a running back in the first round? And my Jaguars guy go, absolutely not. It's not going to happen. There's no way they're going to take Travis Etienne. I go, look, that's right around the spot. 24-25 is when the top running backs are going to start going. Oh, it's not going to happen. They've got James Robinson. James Robinson's great. In your opinion, obviously they drafted Trevor Lawrence. Could not have done better with that. What is your opinion of them drafting Travis Etienne to kind of book him with Trevor? Just what is your take on that specific pick with having James Robinson already in the bag?
So it's funny you asked me that because immediately I'm on a thread with some guys. Actually, we did like a live draft stream because they're kind of spread out throughout the country. And as soon as that pick happened, they're, these guys are freaking idiots. I'm like, well, hold on, time out. The same people who ripping the Travis Etienne pick are ripping the Packers for not getting Aaron Rodgers help. Right. But then the Jaguars in the same draft immediately get instant help for Trevor Lawrence.
Correct.
So which is it? So I'm not going to say it was a great pick, but I kind of like the pick because I think Etienne's a good player. And the other thing is that Etienne doesn't need to carry the ball to be effective. Etienne is an elite receiver. So you can do a lot of different things with this guy. And obviously, obviously Urban Meyer has a reason for taking him. He knew he had James. Or you think Urban Meyer didn't know he had James Robinson? Come on. And we all know that the shelf life for running backs isn't very high. But I like it because you're bringing in his running back you played with for 3 years. An elite level running back.
Not only was he the top
elite
running back, elite.
I think ETN was better than Najee Harris, to be honest.
Some people say
ETN was better than Najee Harris.
Yeah, I think he probably is too. And here's the other thing: you brought up a good point. He played with Trevor Lawrence for 3 years. What better way to make your all-world rookie comfortable with than drafting the running back? That's great. That is, to me, I think it was smart because that's how you build a good team. Don't get lost in the weeds with, the points say don't take a running back to the early second. You're gonna get twisted up over. Don't get twisted up over 6 spots because too many people go. Whatever Mel Kiper says on ESPN, they write down as the gospel. Oh my God, my guy with 3 spots before, 4 spots. Relax, guys. It's about drafting good football players. Travis Etienne is a good football player. James Robinson's a good football player. Would I have preferred the Jacksonville Jaguars load up more on offensive line to help out Trevor Lawrence? Yes, I would have. But I think the fact that they have 2 good running backs, that is going to help their team out. And then the fact is, we're going to end it here. We're not going to go deep with Tim Tebow as your gadget guy, as a Taysom Hill type of a guy, running back, hybrid, tight end. Look, everyone is losing their mind, and we have to get into it. We weren't going to get into it, but we have to get into it. With Tim Tebow. I like Tim Tebow. I'm rooting for Tim Tebow. Is Tim Tebow going to catch 85 balls for 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns? No, guys. Calm down, okay? Taysom Hill is also not going to throw for 48 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. But he's a gadget guy, can be a gadget. So if he is able to help as a leader on the field and off the field with Trevor, don't worry that you don't know all the plays week 3, week 4. It's okay. It's okay. I played a whole career. I never figured out the plays, so I just changed positions. So the point is, he will be able to mentor Trevor Lawrence how to do things, and he'll bond with Travis Etienne, James Robinson. It will be a good team unit. And I'm telling you, that's the best way. It's not always just points. Well, a point board says it. Sometimes the flow meshing together, and then next year you load up O-line. Yeah. As time comes along, you add the defense. I think they're doing things as well as they realistically can do. And Urban Meyer is going to get smarter and going to get better.
Yeah, I like the Tebow. I like the Tebow deal. We talked earlier, and the biggest problem for me with the Tebow deal is the politicization of it. Because
people, I just want to say this before you finish. People were getting. I did not like the fact that the guy, his teammates on ESPN, his broadcast journalists, supposed professionals, were angry at him. So let me see if I get this straight. You take a guy that was a national champion. He's won a playoff game. He's a first-round pick. All these accolades. He's a great team guy, great leader. He gives you everything he has. And that's not a guy you don't think deserves another opportunity.
Yeah, I just don't see why. I guess I do see why people hate it, obviously for political reasons. But once you get in the locker room, that nobody cares about that crap. Right. You might have 1 or 2 here that care about it, but Tim, he can help on the field. He can help off the field. He can help in the locker room. He played quarterback. He played at a high level. He maybe won a Heisman once. I don't know. Maybe
won a Heisman and a national championship. So did Trevor Lawrence.
So
how many backup or third string quarterbacks, tight ends, whatever? I don't care what you call them, or halfback, running back. Just don't get. Yeah. People are getting twisted up on the tight. Oh, he's never been a tight. Yeah, guys, we know he's never been a tight end. Who cares? Relax, okay? Everybody's losing their mind, okay? You think all these guys. The Patriots just paid a lot of money for Hunter Henry. Okay, what if he ruptures his ACL and he's out? Okay, well, are you going to get? So let's live in reality. He's going to be how many players can be a former first-round pick, a former Heisman Trophy winner, and a former national champion? He's literally probably the only one that would check all those boxes that was realistically available, that could come into this team, that also played for Urban Meyer. He brings, if people do not understand Tim Tebow's value, if they are not smart enough to see all of the pluses so far outweigh the negatives. What they don't understand, if Tim Tebow catches 3 swing passes all year long, he's still a huge success. That's what with all the things. Coaching Trevor Lawrence, working with Trevor Lawrence. When the media is hounding Trevor Lawrence because he goes 7 for 22 the first week, for barely 100 yards and 3 interceptions, Tim Tebow's going to say, I take the blame. I got to do better. That's the thing. Like, Trevor Lawrence is going, in some way, he is going to be protected in a shell from Tim Tebow because everybody's still going to want to talk to Tim Tebow because he's so polarizing and dynamic. I think it's a brilliant move. And I think if people don't see this as a brilliant move, they have hate in their heart.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good move. Hey, they're not also going to sell a boatload of freaking jerseys because, like we were saying, I mean, Jacksonville and Gainesville are basically the same town. And I don't live down there, but I'm going to make a safe assumption here that people down there love Tim Tebow. So,
right. It's Gainesville. It's right there.
Yeah,
they should have drafted him 10 years ago. They made a mistake. They drafted Tyson Alua, who was a bust. Again, it all comes back to, and we're wrapping this up, we're going to button this up, but it all comes back to you load up O-line and D-line, you take talented football players, you do the right things, you're going to win games, right?
Yeah, I mean, it should work like that.
It should work like that. It always works.
The best chance.
It works 100% of the time, except for what it doesn't. Coach Dave, great show. Like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get some more people on next week. Thanks again. Have a good night.
See you.